I'm your host, Charise Beckett, and
I am your host, Mark Thompson.
how are you?
If you focus on what you did in the past, then
To lead, transform, and shine.
this is a great collaboration. Career Transformation Academy and Queens Behind the Scenes. Martin Thompson, Charise Beckett, about to tear it up.
Welcome back to Corporately Speaking. I'm Charise.
And I am your co-host, Mark Thompson, and happy.
He is happy, I see. You are cracking me up. What are we unpacking today, Mark?
Well, today we are going to unpack something very interesting. I'll give a shout out to my friend to help me figure this topic out. But we're unpacking two of the most important leadership approaches shaping the future of work, and that is trauma-informed leadership versus mindful leadership. And we want y'all to understand what the two are, but I'm pretty sure you all understand more trauma than you understand mindful in the workplace today.
Yes. And now on the surface, those two can sound like buzzwords because Lord knows we all in corporate have heard our fill of buzzwords, alignment and circling back and all of these things.
Right.
These are real. And trust us, these are anything but buzzwords. In fact, when done right, these leadership styles can truly transform your team, your culture, and even your own well-being as a leader.
Yeah, and now it matters more than ever. So, a recent Forbes article pointed out that we are seeing a surge of workplace trauma from the pandemic, burnout to economic stress, and ongoing social tension. So, leaders are feeling it, employees are carrying it, and it's everywhere.
Yep. And the Harvard Business Review actually reported that over 60% of men and 50% of women have experienced at least one traumatic event in their lives. So chances are you are leading someone who's carrying unforeseen wounds, whether you realize it or not.
Right. So, today, we're going to break down what leadership means, the style, what these leadership styles mean, and how they're different. And most importantly, how you as a leader can use both positively to impact your workforce. But before you do that, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and follow us because we're dropping these nuggets and we need you to stay informed of what we have. So let's get started.
Let's kick it off. So, when I first hear about, and I'm go a little off script here, but when I think about trauma-informed leadership, at first I'm like, oh, okay, what does that mean? I had to do research, and I'm actually a mindfulness expert. So I'm like, what does trauma-informed leadership mean? Because even I did not realize that was actually a thing. And it is a big thing now. And it's really just recognizing the presence of trauma, whether it's personal, organizational, or societal, and adjusting how you lead to avoid re-triggering harm. It also goes in that bucket of situational leadership. You can't manage any two people the same way, right? You just can't. So let's get there first. You can't manage any two people the same way. And because number one, people have different experiences. People are just different people. People have different socioeconomic, educational, ethnic, all these backgrounds that are different. So you can't do that. You can't manage people the same. But trauma is something we all have in common because we all have had some sort of trauma. So that's where I sit with it.
Yeah. I mean, and then you have mindful leadership. So this is something you're expert at. So I want you to really pour into that. But this focuses on you as a leader. I think, it's super important to have a mindful leader. But, trauma could also be a couple of things we'll be able to talk about. So I want to dig into that, where it's trauma from the leader to the employee. And it is also trauma from the manager being taught on how to present trauma. And that's what they know. So they're just stuck in this loop of, if I don't provide trauma, then we don't get results, because I was trauma forced into being the leader that I am today. And, I think this is something that, we have to be fully present and self-aware about. But then, like we said, leaders have to be intentional. Employees have to be intentional about your actions.
That's exactly right. And when you think about trauma and work experiences, something that I notice is people experience a lot of trauma at work, especially Black people and women.
Right.
I shouldn't even just say people of color and women.
People of color.
People of color, because I know that, we might get it. We might get it worse than first.
Right.
We might get it worse than first. But every person of color really does have some sort of traumatic story that I hear. You know what I mean?
And add to that, women with babies, newborns, leave of absence. I deal with this and hear this all the time. They just maybe want an extra hour to maybe breastfeed, and they deal with these things, and they're ready to quit because people are like, no, well, we need you to do the work. And there's some things that are just like, no, we're going to force you to put you in these situations. So either you're going to leave us or take care of your baby. And that's struggle. That's stress.
That's stress. Well, yeah, because who can afford to take care of their baby without a job? So,
right.
So there's a great quote from Dr. Leah Weiss at Stanford University. She says, mindfulness isn't about zoning out or escaping reality. It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment so you can respond wisely rather than react impulsively.
Right. So exactly with mindfulness, it's mindful leaders create calmness in chaos. So it's just not themselves, it's for the teams too. That's me. You definitely say you do it, and I believe you. I would love to interview your employees.
You should.
But here's a good thing. And for me as a leader, this is how I know, and it made me smile yesterday. One of my employees called me to ask me a question about something that was happening to me at the old job. And it just made me smile because they trusted me and they felt I was a confidant. And I'm not even there anymore. That doesn't happen a lot.
No, that doesn't happen a lot. And I have a leader I do that with. She's my mentor. She was my old boss. And I actually can bounce things off her. And you know what I love about her is that she does not create more trauma, but also she won't just take my side. She'll be like, okay, she wants to be mindful about the advice she's giving me. Because, somebody could say, I've had, you have people going, quit that job. You know what? I'm not telling nobody quit no job. Because I'm not paying your bills. So
exactly.
I'm not telling you.
Exactly. Make a decision, but like we said last episode, make a smart decision though. Your exit plan needs to come with some intentionality, but
stay
use
paid.
your brain.
Yeah, stay paid. That's what I say. Just stay paid. So, I think with the pandemic and all of that, it created an opportunity for all of us to kind of step back to be more intentional leaders, because we weren't in the hustle and bustle of traffic. We weren't in the office. We had to be intentional about the way we connected to people because we weren't connected to people.
Right. What do you, and this is a side thought about this, because as you talk about the pandemic and then you talk about the different generations coming into play, I think we talked about this in the past. You got generations that if you bring that trauma, they're going to bring it back. Them YNs, they're going to quit on you fast because they're not going to deal with it. Where we, maybe our generation, Gen X and millennials, we may sit and take it because grandma and mama and them told us to sit and get your job and earn your keep and all this stuff, where you got this new generation. It's like, oh, that's how you're going to treat me? You don't care about this? I'm out. Peace. Good. I'm not worried about tomorrow. I get it right. I'll get it right. I'll figure it out.
I always say that. I said, these young ones, let me tell you, they'll quit your job and go sell feet on the internet before they deal with some nonsense. Okay. I say it all the time. Right. And they know, dances and stuff. Yeah, they be doing, they're never going to sit and take the kind of trauma that I think definitely baby boomers, for sure, Gen X and some millennials. And I happen to be on the cusp of the, I always
Me
have to
too.
say this, what year was you born?
80. I'm right there, July. So I'm
79.
like Gen X.
Same. I'm 79. So, okay. So your birthday's July what?
21st.
Okay. My brother's is the second. Anyway, but he's 81 and I'm 79. So he's a millennial because he's like, I guess that is 81 is the start of them.
Right.
But don't nobody tell, well, what are we then? I mean, we're really not quite Gen X.
Right.
And we're not
really
millennial.
exactly. The cusp
We're on the
generation.
cusp. And I think that we are the glue that keeps the workplace together in situations like this, where we talk about. I think the Zennials, as I think that's what they call us in the middle, are the glue that keeps them talking, that keeps the communication going, especially about things like when you talk about trauma-informed leadership and mindful leadership. You could say that. Say that to one of my mom's friends. They'll be like, "Oh, girl, if you don't just take your ass to work." I mean,
right. Go on there and get that paycheck, get your pension. I like they don't do pension no more.
They don't even got that, Mom. I know. I said they don't even have that anymore. Go ahead and get your pension. They don't have pensions anymore. You either got a 401k or you ain't got nothing.
Yep,
okay?
You ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing.
So, how did remote work blow those lines from home and office? Like, because that's still lingering, right?
Yeah. I mean, what we had. I mean, social tension is very high. I mean, and what we have here is, like, according to Forbes, leaders globally are recognizing that unresolved trauma is becoming a silent performance killer. And you think about that from a remote. Once they started giving remote work after the pandemic, people started arming themselves with, like, you can't treat me like that. You know what? I'm leaving. Then here comes the great resignation.
Quiet quitting. Yeah, quiet quitting.
Oh my gosh. Imagine people sitting at home. You know how many calls I used to have them, like, with people on the call, like, where are you at? Oh, I'm at the pool. Who said? Well, we did say you could work remotely, but we didn't set parameters. People started finding out remote work didn't mean I sit in my house. It means as long as I got internet, I can get my job done. People were going to Starbucks. They were sitting at the mall. They were going to the library. They were going wherever that made them get comfort. So now you're like, yeah, if you don't want me, I'm going to do the bare minimum at this point.
Well, no one is going to be treated poorly. And I think that the older the young generation gets, the more they're going to start seeing the shift a little bit differently, because baby boomers are retiring. I mean, a lot of them are retired, but are retiring. Gen Xers, I mean, shoot, some of them is retired at this point. I mean,
exactly.
At this point, so we had quiet quitting, high turnover, mental health leaves, so much mental health during the pandemic, especially. These are all signs of workplaces that aren't addressing the real human experience. So basically, if you have a workplace that's like quiet quitting, as a huge high turnover, and your mental health, if you can check with your benefits person and they say they've talked to somebody at their broker, and they can tell you that your percentage of people that are on leave for mental health is some crazy percentage, you are not addressing your real human problems at your workplace.
Right. And I mean, that's a statistic that has to be delved into from leadership, but also from the benefits teams as well, because it's important. You pay for it. You actually have these EAP programs that you pay for, but you go look at the statistics from that. I mean, it's got to be done. And what we have, like the Harvard Business Review highlighted, that organizations that proactively create trauma-informed environments see better engagement and retention. So folks are doing it. They're trying to figure it out. But I mean, I can't even tell you if I've seen it. I'll take that back. I have seen it, because it's being poured in. It's just not a connector that makes people get excited.
Do it, right? Because there's this book. Okay, have you ever heard of the book called Teaming?
I have.
By Amy Edmondson. She coined the phrase psychological safety, and it's kind of similar when you feel safe. Like, basically, you feel that you are able to contribute without ridicule or embarrassment. And so that's really psychological safety. I can sit here in this environment in front of all my peers in a meeting, and I can ask a question no matter what the question is, and I don't have to walk away feeling stupid or ridiculed, or you ain't gonna laugh at me. That's kind of like an example of psychological safety. Because when people feel safe, they stay. When people feel heard, they contribute. When people feel seen, they thrive. That's really psychological safety. People want that. And then, I had somebody say, I mean, I'm tired of babying people. Is this work or is this their home? Well, you're asking people to be at work more than they're at home.
Exactly. I mean, and it happens naturally. And you have to, and this is where the work-life balance conversation came in. Like, okay, well, what are you doing? Are you going for walks while you're home? Stand up and stretch. Take more exercises. So we look at this, and this is the impact that starts to change on the workforce. So what are those impacts? Let's talk about how this is the powerful part of your workforce when you use the right leadership.
Well, with trauma-informed leadership, you're creating spaces of psychological safety. Just like I said, you're recognizing that behaviors that might seem like disengagement or resistance can actually be responses to past trauma. You know, we've all had them. I have a story for you. I got to tell you a story before you go on about empathy. I remember I had a boss a long time ago. Actually, it was my first job, my first office job. And I was typing, and he came over to me and he said, I know you're typing a personal email. And I was like, oh, did somebody in IT tell you? Because I was. But but he was like, I can tell by your keystrokes. That, first of all, he's psycho. Second of all, that stayed with me. Clearly that was my first real job.
Right.
I just told you I'm 46. That stayed with me all these years because it always made me question, like, is somebody questioning my productivity? Right? Is somebody questioning my productivity? And I'm going into a workplace with the idea that somebody's questioning my productivity. And so then what do? You're like, this is what I did today. I did this. That's a response to trauma. That's a response to somebody doubting your productivity. So now you think you got to explain every single thing that you've ever done on one day. You know what I mean? Like, so there are that is a response to that.
So is micromanagement creating trauma? I mean, some people don't like it, but it's certain jobs that need it.
With certain people that need it. I think micromanagement, but that's also dependent on the person, right?
Yeah.
So that your trauma response is going to be different because of who you are. Like, now somebody might come to you and you might not care about explaining everything you did because you didn't have somebody telling you about your keystrokes. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So micromanagement, for me, it is a huge trigger. But for other people, it may not be. And I was just talking to a woman today, Joelle Moret. She is great. She was on Queens Behind the Scenes. And we were talking about the soft life because, we all try to live it. And me and her was talking about... That's another topic. It is. We're going to get into it in another episode. But she was telling us that the 40-hour work week is like 100-year-old ideology that was rooted in factory work. And it actually physically did take 40 hours to do some of that work because it was like physical and whatever.
Right.
That is an old ideology. It isn't even relevant to our workplace of the current.
You're right, but shouldn't say this too loud for these corporations catch on.
Well, but the thing about it is like, but what is catching on me? Does that mean you start making, because this is what somebody told me, this is a trauma response for them and their leader you have to talk to people's leaders. And in consulting, I've had to do that. And the person has said to us, or said to me, I just really don't like it that I am, I've had this trauma in my past and I keep reliving it here because my manager keeps doing the same thing. Well, if the manager doesn't know that you have a response to that trauma, so you do have to communicate that.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if I'd say I am triggered by a response to your work. Like, I would love for people to be able to talk like that, but they're not your psychologist. What you need to tell people is, I don't respond well to that approach.
Right. And you got to respond with empathy and not judgment at all. So
right.
I think, just tying everything, I think just thinking about that as well. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, managers don't get trained this way. And like we talked about this before, there's certain managers who just have no idea. And it's not in the employee training on how to be a good man. You have to be the person that has, because leadership, to me, sometimes you're born with it, and then sometimes you have a great leader who push you into being a great leader.
Yeah.
And if you don't have either one of those, there still has to be a better assessment from hiring somebody to understand they're going to bring trauma to your team if you don't do the right assessment. If they're just micromanagement, if they're always forcing and pushing and doing all these things, and depends on the level of leadership, some people take it. Like you got a CEO who's just like, all right, I need all this done, bam, 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 and everybody's just kissing butt to get it done.
I know.
That's going to eventually not create cohesiveness
It's
with
not
the team.
sustainable. It's not sustainable.
No, not at all.
It's not sustainable.
Those type of leaders, I think, people, and that's the things we tell people to look out for is, do you want to be under that leader? If you want it for the money, do your thing. But again, you're going to leave soon, eventually. And that's a leadership we don't want there. So, mindfulness is, to me, probably the stronger way to go. So,
well, with mindfulness leadership, you are modeling emotional regulation. You're pausing before you react. I think we all could work on this. Stanford research actually shows that teams led by mindful leaders report higher levels of loyalty and productivity.
Yeah. So when leaders regulate their emotions, it creates a ripple effect. I love doing that myself because I want the whole team to feel my energy. And I love doing that stuff like, hey, we got a big issue. I'm fine. So teams mirror mirror the emotions of myself. Any leader, they will actually have that happening with their teams. So I think it's important for leaders to act calmly, be smooth about things. You ever see something that blow up and the leader's like, oh, okay, what are we going to do about it? Let's fix it. Let's go ahead and work it out. Because again, your job is over here. Your personal life is over here. So if you can keep work at work, then it shouldn't be bothering me. I shouldn't be going home, pulling my hair out, worried about an issue, just because that's what they hired me to do. I'm fine. I'll let it go. But then that trickles down to your team not to be in a panic because something blew up.
Yeah, I mean, because as soon as you become an alarmist, so do they. Like, as soon as you start going, oh my gosh, I mean, because I've seen people do it before, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, something you may not think is like a big blow up or whatever. And we've seen all of that in action where it is a ripple effect. Those leaders who bring grounded energy in the meetings, the whole room will shift when they bring that into the meeting or into the setting that they're in.
Right. So let's jump into the next segment. We're talking about pitfalls and misconceptions. What are these, what these approaches are not? Let's be clear on that.
Yes. So trauma-informed leadership is not about lowering standards or coddling. It's about high accountability and high empathy. So basically, because you're going to be accountable for your work, right? But high empathy is, can you tell me what's going on? My thing is always this. If you notice somebody who has been a top performer, right? And they've been good, great, and everything else, right? And they are slipping, tripping, acting, all this thing, slipping and tripping and everything else. The first thing that people want to do is be like, well, I need to discipline. The first thing you need to do is say, what is going on with them?
What?
Because something in their personal life or something at work or whatever could be So that's the high empathy part. You really do need to check in and do a scan with your team, right?
What it's like the what, the why, how, where, and then we'll keep digging into the why once we find that problem. So why is this happening? Then why is that happening? Why? Let's get to the root cause. It's easy, but one of the things I like to do is push my employee to get to the root cause.
Yeah.
Because then they can have the aha. If I bring it up, they may be like, you know what? That's not it. He's just talking. He think he know everything. But if they can come up with it, we can solve it a lot better together. And we understand where we need to actually change. And this is kind of preventing a pitfall. And this is where mindful leadership, it's not passive or soft. It's intentional. So you're making a clear, conscious decision and not avoiding them when you're dealing with your employees.
Yeah, I always say that mindful doesn't mean meek. It means mastering the pause between stimulus and response. And we all need that. We need that pause between stimulus and response. And I can tell you, we literally do, because I know for a fact that me as a person, I have to stop.
Yeah.
And just like level set, especially there's those times when you're you get an email. That's my most famous line.
Yeah.
When you get an email that good and well, they being smart.
Right.
You want to be per my last email. I mean, you want to be
all caps.
All caps. But one of the things I do, I'm like, let me take a second before I respond to this email because I don't want it to cuss them out. You
Right.
also just don't want that kind of stuff in writing, but
Right.
also you just need to take a beat. And if that means responding tomorrow or later, do that. I know what works for me is
Yeah.
is the later. And one of the things that really works for me, especially in this email example, is if I write it to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I want to say. I got so many cussing outs from me.
I'm gonna tell you what I do. One of the things is I gotta curse like you're driving in a car. Road rage. It's like email rage. It's like what the
Yeah.
Because nobody heard it. I'm at home. I'm by myself. I could do that.
Right.
And then I write the entire email. You should have blah 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 blah. Chat GPT. Make this more HR professional. Make this smooth. Make this direct. Make this to the point. And it'll just. I'm like, okay, that is very smooth. That's easier. I'm not coming off like a-hole. Thank you. And then I can send an email with a little bit more confidence, more poise, and more structure. And the right questions are asked. The bullet points are designed. So, yeah, I mean, if you can, if it's not anything sensitive information you want to put on Chat GPT, but if it's a direct, common email thread that you can formulate to get the point across without hurting anybody's feelings and make it fun, use Chat GPT. Use any one of those AI systems.
Yeah, that's another really good is like sometimes you can type something but I think I talked to Chat GPT too many times because it's starting to talk like me. Like I did put in Chat GPT the other day and it was like, tell her you don't want her raggedy. I said, now this sound like me. I said, this sounds exactly like me.
It seems like we segued right into practical ways to lead. This is what we're kind of getting into more actions, but I think there's a lot of ways to really cultivate these different approaches. That's our way of handling emails, but that could be coming from our leader and it could be coming from our employees. So it works both ways. When we talk about mindful leadership, I think that's something we got to really reflect on for that.
Well, so the first step is self-reflection, like build a daily practice of checking in with yourself before you check in with others. I was just, one of the tips that I say to use with teams is like, checking in with yourself 1 to 5, where you at 1 to 5, asking your team when you get in a team setting, hey, it reserves them the right to not tell you what is wrong with them. But if they're like, from a scale of 1 to 5, I'm a 1, good and well right now, they're not in a good space.
Right. And secondly, I would say, and this is something I do as well. I'm a greeter, and this is if I'm in a relationship, if you're my friend, good morning is a proper response before you say anything. So I have to create the boundaries of the respect. So even when you're in team meetings or whatever, it could be as simple as open up. Before we get started, how's everybody doing? Somebody give me something fun they did this weekend, or what's something that you're thinking about doing the next weekend coming up? Who's doing anything fun? Any activities to kind of get everybody to open up because we're ready to charge in.
Southern. You're Southern.
Yeah,
so that's a Southern. That's a Southern thing because I mean I am not Southern.
Hold on, where you from?
Wait, I'm country.
Where you from?
West Virginia. I said I'm country.
What?
I said I am country. I'm not Southern.
You got a whole song. If you have a song, you're a country and Southern.
You both.
Sweet home Alabama. Take me home, West Virginia.
Come on. Roads.
Country roads. Come on, man. Got a whole fan base.
We do have a fan base. People not even from West Virginia know the doggone song. So you're right. You're right. So what are some other practical ways, Mark, that to put these approaches into action?
So I mean, maybe what we had with the
invest in
training. Yeah, create safety is the team, but that's what I just talked about.
Oh, you did say, yep.
Yeah,
then invested in training.
And these trauma-informed practices need to be learned and embedded in the culture. So when we say that, I think that's a part of what your company probably already has instilled. I don't know if when you do those new hire trainings and you get all this culture stuff, you can tell when a company just puts something out there.
Performative, yeah.
Yeah, here's what we do. We make sure
it looks like big. It looks like packaged like a box. Like a big box store, yeah.
It's all it is, but how do you keep that accountability for it as well? So, and I think the last piece we hear just modeling, vulnerability And then share your own practice of mindfulness. I'm sorry, I can't even talk today. Share your own practices for mindfulness and stress regulation. So that transparency builds trust. I'm huge. People say, "What type of leader are you?" I don't even know if this is one. I'm very transparent. I need you to understand what I'm doing, what my leader is doing, what our leaders are doing, what we're thinking for a vision, and then you can say, "Oh, that makes sense to why my job makes sense." Because if you understand how you're connected to the company, then you're going to go to work like, well, if I don't do this, then this is going to mess up this,
Yes,
So
that is so important. I'm so glad you said that, Mark, because it is so important. Is the connection to the organizational goals. And I believe transparent. I was just pulling something up because I'm doing a training this week about leadership, and one of the leadership styles I'm going to tell you is, hold on, I did a breakout session on these. Okay. So there is autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire, transactional.
That's me.
Transformational.
I'm all of them. I'm just all of them. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I think no. Well, there's coaching, but the thing, but the thing of it is we all are all of them sometimes, right?
Exactly.
All, every situation is not going to cause for the same type of leadership style, just like the same, like with people, right? Like people are not going to, you can't lead them the same way, just like you can't lead with the same leadership style to everybody or at every time, right? Like all the time. So, but you also said that about vulnerability, and I wanted to give a drop about Brene Brown talks about vulnerability a lot. I always recommend her book, Daring Greatly. I love her. I just love all of Brene Brown stuff, but she talks about vulnerability, and not vulnerability, explaining vulnerability in a way that's like, people think when you're a vulnerable leader, you got to tell people your business. That is not vulnerable.
Yeah,
that is not vulnerability. I look at it as like, I'm a human being just like you.
Exactly. I'm not going to sit here and yeah, my girlfriend broke up with me, man. So that's why I haven't been working as a good leader for you. So I just want you to no, I don't need none of my.
I had a boss do that a long time ago. She was like, she got our whole team together at a dinner. I was never so embarrassed for this woman. She was like, so we're getting a divorce. I was like, who? Us? Are we leaving you? She said, no, me and my husband. And I was like, okay. I'm sorry to hear that. She was like, yeah, and I got to go to these parenting classes. I said, okay, this is where it stops being work appropriate. But also, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. You know, number one, I would love to know if you feel comfortable telling me, but I really don't want to know, because if it come up somewhere else, I don't want you thinking I told it, because I didn't, because I probably forgot.
right. It's none of my business. It's in one ear and out the other ear. Now, sometimes you get work friends and that type of stuff, but I think as leaders, you don't have friends, and that was probably the best advice I got from one of my leaders. I came from the staff, and we were good buddy, and we hung out, and he said, "You can't be friends with them anymore." And I said, "Oh," I was like, "Why?" But he was like, "No, because they look at you different now. You have more responsibilities. You have things you have to control, and you won't get the respect." And it took a long time, not for me to earn that, because people are like, oh, he's a new leader. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't understand. And I really had to build my leadership style. And I had to go through those lumps. You take lumps as a new leader. It's harder to become a new leader with people you used to be peers with and step into that space.
All. I actually have never had to do that. I have never had that, like, that. Oh yeah, once I did, but it just was seamless. I guess. If they was mad, I didn't know, because I was sure enough.
They was talking behind your back. Oh man, I got talked behind my back plenty of times.
It was like they was talking behind your back.
Yeah, but here's the sad part. I was like, man, they having get-togethers and playing cards and kickbacks, and I'm sitting at home like, I want to go to the kickback, but they can't talk.
But they can't talk about you at the kickback. If you at the kick, well, what you have to learn how to do also is make leader friends, like people who are your peers. You have to be able to have that, and I think everybody needs kind of a friend at work, and you know, and so you do have to have that. So there's a real life example. Let's bring this to life. Picture this: an employee misses a deadline. I would say a deadline, an important deadline. A traditional reaction might be frustration or immediate consequences.
So you want me to tell you what my response would be? What the not a swing? I got it. So this happened.
Like,
this happened.
I was like, oh God.
No. This happened this week. I don't charge people, so I want to get to the root cause of why, and then I'm going to ask these questions. Like it's kind of like that. You know how your mother asks you, "Why'd you do it?"
Yeah, I never had no answer.
You ain't got no answer for it, right? But I'm going to ask that to adults because where did we miss the gap? Why did we miss the gap? Because now I know how to coach you or correct you for the next time. We're going to make mistakes because we're human. We're not AI. We're not robots. But you missed a deadline because of what? Why aren't we there? And if you need help for things next time, proactively, I need you to now be contacting the right people. And this is one of those things that I put in almost like, because sometimes your employees are like children. And we have to say, hey, don't let trouble beat you home.
Don't let trouble beat you home.
Yeah, you need to be telling me what's going on before it happens. If you know a storm is on the way, hey, I want to give you a heads up. There's a storm coming. It hasn't hit yet, but we're prepping the team or getting things together to be able to handle that. Not that like, oh man,
this storm.
We got 7 hurricanes going on right now. I just want to let you know, no, because now we're all fighting the fire, and I have to go to my boss and say, I just found out.
So, but you're saying asking questions, though, right? Like that, what's really going on here? So you said it. So a mindful, trauma-informed leader would pause. They would ask, what's really going on here? Like you just said, maybe they're facing a caregiving stress or even anxiety or return to work transitions. You got people coming back from the government shoot. They coming back and they ain't even got no building to come back
to. Right. Right. So that pause just it creates space for understanding, and understanding opens the door to solution to actually stick. So it's just important. I think with the pause, it is you as a leader have to have some type of care about you as well. So if you can show someone that you care about why. And work work is stressful sometimes. So understanding, hey, I know it's tough. I know we make mistakes and we miss it. And then, we'll get better. We'll get through this. And my last thing we say, don't do it again. See how calm that was?
You said don't do it again.
Don't do it again.
Don't do it again.
Yeah, don't do it again. Next time you do it, we're gonna have a conversation.
A different kind of conversation.
You're like, why is HR in the room? Oh, well, we're just gonna have a quick conversation.
Yeah, quick conversation. Okay.
Look, 10 o'clock meeting that you didn't know about 15 minutes before you got in. Like, what's this about?
Why she here?
Yeah. So
yes.
Well, are we ready to just recap? Let's look at these key takeaways.
Yeah, trauma-informed leadership is about seeing and supporting the human experience in your workforce.
And mindful leadership is about managing your own emotional presence so you can lead with clarity.
And then when you combine the two, you create a workplace where people feel safe to do their best work and they feel psychologically safe.
So this is such a powerful conversation. Leaders, remember your influence is larger than you think.
Yes, you're not just leading tasks. You are leading people, human beings, and how you show up really does matter.
So, folks, this is another quick episode. I think it was very informative. Thanks to my friend who gave me a shout out. I'm not going to say her name because, I just met her. So,
I got to get away from you.
But, make sure you follow Corporately Speaking for more conversations like this, and share this episode with your leadership team, with folks who just need to know more. But I think we can probably do some more segments on leadership. We have enough skill sets. I feel like 21 years of HR leadership. You've probably been doing it for what, 72? Since you said you
it's been a long,
you was born in the 1970s.
I've been doing it for a long time. We could have I love doing leadership. And I created my own leadership development model. So we could talk about the poise model when we could definitely talk about poise and how that is executed with precision and it's a framework. It's a framework that is really about leading with clear goal setting, execution, unlocking potential, overcoming obstacles, but it's also thriving leadership. It represents a new era of leadership. It introduces psychological safety and building careers and cultures that are rooted in psychological safety. And also they're not it's not a model that's based in hustle culture and burnout.
Right.
It's not. It offers a balanced, empowered approach to leadership and career success, where resilience and well-being are non-negotiable.
Well, you better sell that thing. Tell them your website. How can they find it?
Yes, sorry. Go to www. I always say that. Like, you can totally tell I was born in the 70s. I'm always with this Wait, one of my employees was like, you ain't got to say that no more.
You probably saying go to http semicolon
/ It is have-poise.com. So it's the poise method, and it's have-poise.com.
Good. I think, folks, you can learn a lot there, especially from Charise, her leadership, executive leadership, coaching. I think you do it all. It's
yoga,
all in there.
Yoga.
Yeah. Well, one day, folks, you're going to see us, and we're probably going to be teaching so much stuff because, with Career Transformation Academy, I'm just trying to educate people on how to get jobs. So if you don't understand that, but then when you're already in the space, in the leadership space, the executive space, you keep growing, and this is the growth pattern. You go from being a regular employee to a leader to an executive, and that's what you want to do. That's fine, but this also helps you in entrepreneurship.
It totally does. It totally does. I always tell people, my mom, I remember when I was like, I'm doing Queens Behind the Scenes, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing my consulting, I'm creating poise. My mom was like, you doing everything but what you went to school for, huh?
Yeah.
And I said, I did go to school for this, though.
Right. That's a crazy thing. I just talked to somebody the other day. They were like, you went to University of Richmond. I was like, yeah, I did. And it was like, wow, you do so much. And I was sitting there, she's like, you're a good leader. And I said, wow, I talked about it in the podcast before, and I did a little short. And I said, University of Richmond has a leadership school. I didn't do the leadership school, but the foundations of leadership was in it.
Yeah.
And then we had a coach for football who taught us leadership. And we were getting pounded, pause, with leadership.
Pause.
We had a lot of leadership things poured into us. And if you go on my LinkedIn and follow anybody that was in my era for football or whatever, SVPs, EVPs, CEOs, directors, they're principal lawyers, they're leading. They're absolutely at the top, or doing great. I'm talking about principals in Richmond, and just like moving in so many different directions. It's just incredible. I just smile after I look at all my guys coming together. It's like, oh man, we're all like
doing something and not broke. Well, ain't that the bomb? I mean, like, that is so great, though. It's just such a good feeling. So, yes, and also Career Transformation Academy. Make sure you're looking for. Mark is talking about. I'm always saying this to my son's friends. Like, they need to connect with you because, or any young adult or a person looking for a job. You just need the skills, and you have all the tools.
Yep. I had, I'm gonna call her out too. So I had somebody tell me, they were like, I know how to interview. And I was like, that's fine. That's fine. That's 10% of the issue that you have to worry about. You gotta be prepared of everything and the behaviors and understanding what you're going to face. But also, it's not just a resume, LinkedIn, all of these things tied together have to come in as a package. Then you have to be presentable. You have to articulate yourself. You have to be able to talk to yourself about yourself like yourself. And some people just like, I'm just, like, so,
You say like, so, but it's true.
It's practice. It's practice. It's a lot of that stuff. It's a lot of that stuff that people don't make it because they got a job. And that's the first thing of failure. I got a job. Yeah, but they also were hiring 22 people. You fell into the 22. But when you need that one solo job where they need your skill and your expertise, now, how did you come to the table? Because you have to be the absolute choice. And I make this same correlation when it comes to relationships.
Oh.
It's the same way. like you're finding somebody to be the absolute choice for you to fix your criteria and vice versa. So you ask questions, they ask questions. The same thing with just understanding if y'all have the same energy, same likeness. That's what it's the same thing. Job interviewing and relationships is about the same. That's why I tell women too, you can quote me on this. If you can go out here and become a lawyer, get a degree, an outstanding job, making 6+ more figures than ever, be a leader in your community, do all these things, and why can't you be a wife? Why can't you find your husband? Why can't your husband find you? It can happen. You got the skill sets. You're doing it every day.
It is true.
Yeah,
It's
apply
true.
it. That's a whole nother segment podcast.
Oh, we got it all locked. Well, y'all, listen, we done talked y'all to death. We love the audience. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. We can't wait to see y'all on the next episode of Corporately Speaking.
Peace.
Me and my broke nail.
I'm gonna leave that on there.
Please.
That'd be funny.
3 in the morning, the